Thanks for being here, guys. We're looking forward to working with you.
Can you guys see my screen? Yeah, okay. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Try this. Okay, my name is Becki Streett, and I'm so excited to see you guys. I think it's great to be able to meet with just mathematicians or people who teach math so that we can kind of share some ideas. Melissa and I just mainly want to have a discussion with you guys, conversation about what's working and what's not working, any ideas you have for the future. I'll pass it on to Melissa.
All right, there we are, crossing each other's paths, and I am we crossed each other's paths. I'm Melissa Hardeman. Becki and I have been working together for several years now, and we're both very passionate about teaching, and we're both very passionate about being creative. So it is so nice to be able to work with fellow colleagues. As you're going to see in my presentation, that is something that I am incredibly fond of. Becki, if you would go to the next slide, I'm going to get us started by looking at the decisions that have been made for fall for our university. Then together, we're going to work on determining some of the best ways we can move forward so we can have a successful fall semester. Excuse me. So the decision our university has made is to put all of our fall 2020 courses either online or fully online or hybrid. And our hybrid is defined as being any web-based course that has a synchronous component. And the synchronous component can either be a face-to-face meeting, or the synchronous component could be online. I have chosen my synchronous component to be online, as well as Becki. We feel like that's just going to be the best way to handle our fall semester. Okay, so decisions have been made. Now faculty, us, are making preparations. Our preparations are underway. So there have been so many professional development opportunities this summer. I hope you've taken advantage of some of them, but there have been some nationally ones offered. Maybe your particular school offered some professional development. I know Becki and I attended some professional development sponsored by our school, but the ones that have been offered nationally might be from Cengage, Pearson, maybe Hawks. We've learned about apps and extensions. We've learned about Google Slides and Google Docs. And this venue, Course Hero, is another professional development that we can use to better prepare for our fall semester. As with some of the topics that we learned about, as I said earlier, Google Slides. Yesterday, Becki did a presentation on Google Slides, and I'm not sure if you had a chance to see her presentation, but you may want to look at her recording because it was really dynamic and it was creative and inspiring. Okay, so my favorite preparation, though, is when I brainstorm with my colleagues, where we just get in a Zoom session and talk about a particular topic or an idea, and we just go at it, picking it apart, figuring out the best way that we could provide testing, or the best way we could do group work. And so we get so much from our brainstorming sessions. So guess what? You're going to get to do that with us today. So you'll get to do some brainstorming and come up with some ideas with the colleagues that we have here. With that, we still have many questions that persist. And these are just three that we came up with on the fly. How can we best serve our students who prefer that face-to-face experience? How can we keep students engaged in this hybrid online environment? And maybe what are some of the best platforms to use? There are so many platforms out there available to us. And do we want students using 5 different platforms for one class? It can be overwhelming to the student and overwhelming to us too. So moving forward, let's look at the next slide. as we plan our courses for the fall, I think it's so important that we keep student success as our core mission. Students need to know that we care about them and we care about their success. That's all right. We'll just go back one.
Sorry.
Okay. So whether our plans include, or I am sure our plans will include both asynchronous and synchronous components. As we start to develop those and put them together, think of student success, how we can keep that at the forefront of our minds. So success in asynchronous, well, that's a tough one, especially success in an asynchronous environment and success in a synchronous environment. Now, Becki and I just came up with a few items for the asynchronous environment. Since we're math people, we're assuming that they might be doing their homework on some learning management system like My Math Lab or WebAssign. We will have like our lecture videos posted where they can watch them asynchronously, and maybe some discussion boards that they can engage in. So those are some asynchronous components that I am wanting to put into my course. And synchronously will be, Zoom sessions with students, virtual office hours, as well as students have the opportunity to work, to get tutoring through our Math Assistance Center. Now in the middle there, where the two overlap, testing could occur in either format, group projects, study sessions, could be asynchronous or synchronous. But as I look at this, as I look at the group projects there in the middle, I saw I was part of an interesting session yesterday. And let me get the title of that session. It was called State of the Student Under COVID. And there was a student panel. So this was based on students' reactions to what happened in the spring, how they handled the changes, and what worked best for them and what did not work best for them. So they had some great insights to us as educators of how to handle the situations best for our students. So I would suggest that you watch that recording. If you weren't there, you'll get some really good information that's going to help you move forward as you plan your fall semester. So as we go, before I hand this off to Becki, I just want to tell you that our goal in the rest of this session is to get your input on some of the topics you see here on your screen. And we would like to get your input as they relate to our discipline, mathematics. So as we're going through these polls and we're going through these breakout rooms, think about how these would apply in your math class. So with that, let's brainstorm with our colleagues, and I'm going to let Becki take it over.
Hi, I'm so excited you guys are here. It's great to see people who obviously care about their students and how they teach. So the poll, as you can see, is on there. We're basically planning on whatever of these topics you guys care about the most or you're interested in talking about, just vote for whichever one you want. And the one that gets the most votes, we will talk about in our first breakout room, and the one that gets the second most votes, we will talk about in our second breakout room. Mainly, we want to talk about what you guys want to talk about, what you think would be worthwhile or valuable. So far, student engagement looks like #1 so far.
That's what it looks like to me.
Anyone not voted yet?
We're missing about 5 votes here. We got a couple more people in. And just a couple more people, and then we'll close this out here. Alrighty, I think we're gonna close it out.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, it looks like the first thing we're going to talk about is student engagement. And then the second thing is assessment methods, which I think Melissa and I kind of thought was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so. Oops, now I got to go here. So what we're going to do in our breakout rooms, we'll probably break out into 2 or 3 rooms since we don't have a huge thing, but I want it to be small enough where you can all introduce yourselves. We can talk about what our individual schools are planning to do for the fall. And I know it's changing all the time, but what's going on right now. I want you to pick a leader, and we're going to kind of do it more, not based on who's talks the most or is most extroverted, but we're going to kind of call you out a little bit. So when you get in your breakout room, I want you to figure out which of you teaches at the school with the smallest student population. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to figure out. And then obviously that's part of introduce yourselves, and then talk about what you think, what kind of ideas you have for student engagement, what you've tried that's worked, what you've tried that hasn't worked, what you may have heard in this at this summit. But we want to talk about that. And then we're also going to share in the chat, I'm going to share a link so that you can get on a Google document and just at least get one person from your group, if not all of you guys, to just add to that little document what things you're talking about, so that we can kind of form something that we can share with among us all at the end with some of our best ideas and suggestions. So are there any questions about that? Before we do the breakout room, let me quit sharing. And I can put the link in the chat.
And I just put the title on the page for the topic.
Okay, excellent. Yeah.
On the doc.
So does anyone want to click? Can anyone click on that and see if they can access the Google link?
Okay. Dan looks like he can.
Awesome, it worked, yay. Okay, so in your group, I want you to introduce yourselves, figure out who's your leader gonna be, and the leader's just gonna be the one that maybe when we all come back together, you'll talk, but since we have a smaller group, we might just let everyone talk. Of course, anyone can talk.
Yeah.
But the main focus is student engagement, but if you go off on a tangent, whatever you wanna talk about, I think would be fun. Okay, so I guess we're,
And what's nice is we would like you to write your information on this Google Doc, whatever you come up with, write it on there. So we'll have this filled out and we can email it to you. And we're going to, or if you send us your email, a request, we can email you this document we came up with.
Okay, so I guess we're ready for breakout rooms. So I'm gonna, just so we can all look at each other while having the discussion, I'm gonna pick on Dan, since he was my great leader. And Dan, I'm sorry to tell you, but I have a feeling based on the criteria for our next discussion, you're gonna be the group leader again in your new group, but we'll see.
Okay.
So anyway, why don't you share some ideas? I share your idea and anything else you thought of.
Sure. So we kind of talked a little bit about engagement on 2 different levels. One, like intra-student engagement, but also then engagement of the students with the actual course material. And so some things that came out that Doris mentioned, and I think this is great, is the idea of making use, and I think I saw it on the Google document as well from others, but making use of the breakout rooms if you have any kind of synchronous session, or this didn't come up directly in our group, but I'm also going to hold, I'm sure we all will be holding, who are teaching some form of office hours. And during those, if I get enough students that are attending, I'll use breakout rooms there as well to put them in groups of 3 or 4 so they can then do some active learning discussion and then pop back in and share with the main group. We had also mentioned, or at least something that I'm going to be trying, is putting them in little peer pods for the week. And so it'll be on our LMS, they'll be randomly assigned, have the same peer pod for 3 weeks of 4 students. And the idea of the peer pod is that you check in for mental well-being and general conversation, get to know each other, form some community. And also that's your first line of defense for who do I ask for help on homework, because you learn it best if you explain it, or if a peer explains it to you, that whole proximal learning theory. And so I'm hoping, I have no idea, but I'm hoping that that's going to work to get them to at least recognize some people because my greatest fear is they will be sitting in their own room by themselves, and those who are least likely to seek out peers are going to be the ones who will completely stay alone in their room. But those are the main ideas that we talked about, and there were some other things involving engagement of material. But from looking at the other ideas, I'm really curious to hear from some of the other groups as well. I don't know if I missed anything, if anybody else wants to jump in from group 3. Nobody wants to jump in. Okay. Who wants to go next? And I have a multi-sided die I can roll if we need to.
I think you're on mute, Melissa.
Sorry. All right, so sorry. If group 2 wants to go, we can go. Now, Jayant was our leader, but I took all the notes on the Google Doc. So, Jayant, would you prefer me to talk about some of the things we came up with? Or you're welcome to?
No, you say. Please
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
We had some good ideas. I might need to look back at the slide, but one was having them groups. Groups came up a lot. Putting them in groups, having them work like in a whiteboard situation, and the teacher could actually see what was going on in each of those groups, and then them coming together and looking at each other's to find mistakes, or maybe they did something wrong and saw it on another slide, you know, on another person's work. So putting them in groups and having them working either same or even different problems. But Brenda mentioned that she could cover a lot of information in just, you know, 1 hour by having these different problems and the students solving them and sort of bringing out the important parts of all of those problems for one whole chapter lesson. What else? Let me exit and come up with another one. It was mentioned Google Jamboards. It's an interactive whiteboard, and that helped the teacher to keep track of the students' work on those whiteboards. But, you know, everyone attacking a problem at the same time, synchronously having that interaction. Nearpod was mentioned, but I'm not really sure that I know much about that. I need to learn some about that. And then I mentioned what I'm going to try to do this fall semester, which is in Blackboard, put up a problem that I worked with a bunch of mistakes in it, and then have students be able to comment on what mistake they found, but they can't see anybody else's post until they make their post. So they have to find one, they have to post it, and then they'll get to see all the mistakes that everyone else found in that problem. And my goal is to make it a game by putting in a really tough mistake to find, kind of an Easter egg mistake. And if a student finds that mistake, I'll give them extra bonus points or something for it, to maybe get them to want to engage more and actually do the activity. So I think that's kind of what we came up with. If I'm missing something, please chime in. All right.
Does anyone else have any ideas or want to talk about this subject?
I guess, oh, sorry, did somebody else go?
Go ahead, Crystal.
Okay. One thing that I was going to say is just in general for engaging students, and I've done this with multiple subjects is if a lot of students ask me for extra credit. And so one of the things that I started doing is asking them to bring in articles or instances of the content being utilized in a meaningful way in the real world. And if they could bring in an article or an event that they could share with the class, then they could earn extra credit. And they could bring in, each person could bring in 2 or 3 of them, depending on the nature of the class, to share. And I actually found that that really upped engagement with my students in a couple different ways. First of all, it gave them a different way of thinking about the subject matter that tended to engage them a lot more. And it really then helped tie them more to the using the content in the real world and the applicability. I think teaching history, this is something that there's often a really big divide that you wouldn't necessarily think about as an older adult, but younger people really have a hard time getting past the memorization, regurgitation, and how people utilize history to justify actions, politics, etc. And I think, you know, I've used the same concept in computer science education and in math tutoring and things, and I just feel like it makes the students more engaged overall for their discipline, and it makes them think more critically about how what they're doing right now impacts what they might be doing in the future. And just doing that at a regular cadence is really, really fun actually too, because I learned interesting things.
I love that idea. Did you write it down on our Google Doc?
I just did. I was just going to let you know that I was typing that away while Crystal, I threw it under breakout room 3 so we look cooler because Crystal was in our breakout room.
Yeah, I love that extra credit assignment. It's become one of my absolute favorites.
Oh man, that would work well in my quantitative reasoning course where it's math and everyday life.
Yeah, and it works well pretty much in any topic, any discipline. You know, so, and I've had conversations with colleagues, you know, in just social sciences and such, and they're like, oh yeah, that works for mine too. So yeah, hopefully that maybe will give you guys a little bit of something to engage the whole class.
Yeah, I love that. Roberto, were you going to say something?
Yes, to add to this conversation, or how do we engage students, I think one takeaway, I kind of, you know, drove the question, but I think Linnea and Shaiwanda kind of gave some good suggestions when I asked the question. But how do you address students when they're facing a challenge with taking a test or taking a course in a class online remotely, fully remotely, mind you? They're not familiar with the platform of the service. Maybe you're going to use MATLAB, or maybe you're going to use some other software. But when you're conducting a test and you need to structure a formula, you need to structure the format and style correctly to make sure that what you're trying to convey is the right solution and explanation, that some challenges are some people or individuals don't understand how to use the formulas provided or the tools provided. So there was a good suggestion, which is not just have the students take the test, but using the platform, but also allow them to upload handwritten work, because some students learn best with that. Some actually will be able to support the solution better and say, hey, I did get the right answer, I did explain it well, but I don't know how to code it or program it in this tool. And how that correlates and connecting with our service is that we find that as a challenge too with our tutoring services. How do you accommodate all different types of math,
Yes.
formulas, and how do you make sure it gives you the right answer? Because we all know a plus or minus will throw off the answer completely.
Right.
It happens all the time.
And we try to tell them that's super important. There's a huge difference between a +2 and -2, but it can be so frustrating if you just type the wrong thing. Yeah. That kind of leads us up to, I think we don't really have time, obviously, for another breakout room, but that kind of leads to assessments. What are you guys doing for assessments? Are you using like ProctorU or HonorLock? Are you no proctored tests? Does anyone want to speak to that?
We use HonorLock, but we've used HonorLock with most of our classes, but some instructors are doing 1-on-1 or 2 students per Zoom session, as long as the students aren't in the same class. So maybe an intermediate algebra student or developmental math student with a Cal 1 student. That way there's no overlap between the material. And we've sat down and actually proctored because students feel more comfortable taking a paper pencil. We give them the option to take it via HonorLock, and you can use the software, or you can take it via paper pencil, and a PDF appears and you start to work the problem. Some of our older students prefer that, and so we've sat down and done that, but we use HonorLock. We're required by the institution to use HonorLock, although we would prefer probably ProctorU or something else. But and we watch the videos and we watch whatever else. Some of it's been really, really good. Most classes have 2 proctored assessments, 2 non-proctored tests. So students get that build up to the proctored test. So.
Please make sure you write these ideas down on this sheet for us, please, when you get a chance. I'm sorry, Dan, you were going to say something?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just jumped in like it was my place to jump in. I was just going to say that I have an upper level class that only has 13, 14 students in it, and it's a senior level course. Then I have a lower level class, sophomores, that has like 30 students. So for the sophomores, I'm using something called GradeScope, which allows them to write down their solutions, and then they can upload just using the camera on their phone. And then it puts it into a platform for me to grade. And I'm actually going to move away from, they're all going to sign an honor code that they're not working with each other, because there's research that shows just having them sign that each time actually helps. I'm going to move away from proctored. I don't know how this is going to work, but give them a full day after accessing it before it has to be uploaded, and try to go almost a take-home exam route. And I'm making them lower stakes, realizing that there's a trade-off, that when you go take home, yes, they can look things up. And so I need to really be careful how I write my questions. But I think the one I'm more excited about is my upper level, where I'm just taking dynamite to the whole thing. And I'm going to do oral assessments for that. So they have homework. Homework is where the nuts and bolts are. Homework is where I want to make sure that they have all their for all signs written correctly and the logic is appropriate. But then I'm taking it from the USAF did a study of 10 years on oral exams in mathematics classes. There's a great paper written. I can throw a link in the chat for it. And they say that it just changes how students prepare for the exam. They no longer memorize and cram. Instead, they have conversations with each other about the broad strokes. So the idea is I'll have 15 minutes. We'll do a quick check-in, and then I'll provide the questions beforehand, and I'll ask them, forget the notation, forget the terminology. How would you explain the idea of countable infinity to another math major who hasn't taken this class? And their results were that you can tell pretty quickly what they know and don't know. You can give them some prods and hints. If they freak out and freeze, you can say, time out, let's just meet again tomorrow. We'll reschedule this. You get a freeze time because it's really nerve-wracking for them. And I have no idea how it's going to work, but I'm really excited to give it a try. I figure it moves us away from that teaching like it's 1680 and towards something a little bit more, I don't know, adventurous. We'll see how it goes. I'll put a link to the article though.
Yeah, please. I love that idea.
Yes.
I know one of the things that when I got into upper division math in my program, I had one professor that I still remember to this day, who did very interesting midterm and final exams, in the sense that he'd have 1 or 2 questions, that we were meant to be able to solve. And then he would have the other 3. He would walk in, tell us, you know what, I don't know how to solve these problems. These are, parts of fundamental problems that mathematicians are working on everywhere. I'm really excited to see what you guys are going to do and the approaches that you utilize. Think about what we've learned in the class, think about the toolkit, and go to town. And it'll be really exciting. And, of course, taking the exam, you don't feel that way. But I always remembered those exams, and they just always stood out to me. And so I kind of wonder, in an online environment, if you have questions like that and you tailor them in a specific way where they can use a tool set, you'll know right away if they're talking to each other by comparing the exams. You'll know right away if they're taking from somewhere else, and you'll be able to understand their thought process in something. And if you're very upfront about that, I kind of wonder if that would make a really interesting experiment in an online environment, because as I said, it's something that I still remember to this day, taking that as a student. So that professor was also very eccentric too. and in other ways that were really fun. But that was one thing that I always found very interesting. And I never had another professor who did anything like what he did.
I love that idea. And I like the idea of too, like maybe meeting with a student and just asking them a question for them to explain it. Because I do think you see like, you know, what they have to kind of try to BS through and the other stuff that they really know. Yeah, so do you see our emails? I hope you guys will share emails. It's been so great talking to you. We would love to stay in touch and want to hear what your ideas are. I think it's important to kind of have a community where we can really share what's working and not working. And I feel like all of your students are so lucky to have you guys.
We'll see. Is there a chance? Is there a chance that the chat can be emailed to the participants?
Yeah, if they save it and give it to me, then I will definitely email it. So put in your email if you want chat links, and then we'll also share the document. I don't know, because I mean you have the document. But yeah, so please add your thing and keep in touch. Mm-hmm. Hopefully,
yes, this was great.
Yeah, did you see Melissa and me dancing last night? Anybody? We had so much fun.
I missed that.
Unfortunately, my internet was going in and out, so I couldn't keep listening to the music because it kept breaking and it was driving me nuts. But I did see people were having so much fun, and I wish my internet would have been a little bit more stable.
Yeah, you should go to some of the events tonight, right?
Yeah, it was fun. Embarrassed.
I was dancing in my chair. This chair right here.
That's the time when, you know, having a stand-up desk is a good option, you know?
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
So you guys had some great ideas, and I have a couple more I'm going to add to that Google Doc, and then when it's done, we'll send it to you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To everyone. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank
Glad to see you, Doris.
Good to see you. Good luck.
Yeah, I didn't even read part of the chat, so I'll be glad to get to see
I didn't
it.
either, so.
Ladies, I wanted to say one of my really good friends, her name is Marvelyn Tapp, and she told me to say hello.
No, you're kidding. We love her.
We love
I said, do you
her.
know, I took a picture and said, do you know these people? And she's like, yes, they're the coolest people ever.
Oh,
So I told her I would tell you hello.
Oh, we love her and miss her.
Tell her we miss her so much.
I will.
Are you
That's
teaching
great.
with her in Georgia?
No, I'm in Tuscaloosa. We actually met at the AP Stats reading.
The stat.
Oh gosh.
Years ago.
Yes.
So,
Gross.
I took a picture and I said, do you know these people when I saw the schools? And she's like, yes, I know those people. So
Fun.
she's prepping for the fall in Georgia. So
Great.
Well, it's great to meet you.
Yeah.
Where in Georgia are you? I'm in South Carolina.
oh, I'm in Tuscaloosa. I'm in actually Alabama.
Oh, I thought you were going to Georgia.
No, friends in Georgia. Friend is in Georgia.
Okay.
Right outside of Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's closer to me.
Yeah.
Yes. Much closer. But y'all have a wonderful day. The heavens have opened outside and there's thunder and lightning. So I'm going to.
Oh, okay. Stay safe. Y'all in tornado country.
Yes, you all stay safe.
So Doris, have you enjoyed the summit?
Oh yeah, it's been fun.
Good.
It's like our time zone's a little different, so I usually have to make time during dinner, you know.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's been, I've enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for inviting me. That's really to give me that link. Okay.
Yeah.
So good luck. Actually, the only relatives I had in this country were from near Little Rock, but I never met them. It's from my great grandfather came like years and years ago, but I've never been in touch with anybody.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So
Thank
I'm
you,
already
Melissa.
in Germany, so you know, planned. Okay. Oh, well,
Just
y'all,
gonna take this.
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us,
Okay.
Doris. This was so fantastic. What did the two of you think?
I'm kind of glad it didn't have a ton of people. I'm glad it had a smaller amount.
Mhm.
There was a communication barrier with what the person who was the leader in mind. So
Oh,
I took over the lead.
that's good. Yeah.
Very difficult to understand his English.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got about a fourth of what he said, but all right, hopefully, everybody will put their thoughts on that document. We'll have some really good ideas for the fall semester.
Yeah. And I saved the chat. I'll email it to you over the weekend.
Right.
And then we can, I thought that the group was really passionate and had lots of ideas, and it was very collaborative. Your questions were open-ended, and it kind of gave everybody a place to share and learn, which was really nice. Yeah.
Good.
So, good, great.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so much. Okay, well, hope to see you in the evening for one of the happy hours.
Hopefully we're dancing.
There's more dancing.
We want to.
Okay, let me try to figure that out. Yeah, bye.
Bye, guys.